Adrienne Ross squared, squaring off from A to Z. I'm going to talk to you today about Tamika Catchings. I assume that if you're part of the main channel, you know who Tamika Catchings is. She is a huge part of the history of sports, of women's sports, of the WNBA, and of course, of the Indiana Fever. She played her entire 15-year career with the Indiana Fever. She is considered a legend, and she wore number 24, just like I did. And so there's a special place in my heart for her. But even before she came into the WNBA, I remember her from college because she went to Tennessee. She was a Tennessee Lady Ball. Let me correct that. There's no such thing as past tense. She is and will always be a Tennessee Lady Ball, playing for a coach I just always admired and modeled my coaching after. And that, of course, is Coach Pat Summitt. And I just think that there's something special about players who played for Coach Summitt. And I remember during those collegiate days, I remember that period at Tennessee where there were the three Meeks: Tamika Catchings, Shamiqua Holsclaw, and Samika Randall. Well, Tamika Catchings won a championship there with Coach Pat Summitt. And speaking of Coach Summitt, I just wonder how things would be, what her mindset would be if she had not gotten early onset dementia, if she had continued to coach, because things have changed so much. What would she have thought of what we see in NIL today, in the transfer portal, and even the WNBA, the way the culture has shifted within the WNBA? I'm just curious. But Tamika Catchings' class act. I ran across an article just a few days ago. I don't know how it got before me, but it did. And I looked up, when was this article published? And what Google told me was that it's unspecified, but that it mentioned her being on the 700 Club in 2008. So just from the article itself, it seems like this article was published pretty early in Tamika Catchings' playing career. And she's been out of the league since 2016. So this is a really old article. So are we talking like maybe 20 years, close to 20 years or more than 20 years? It's been a while, which makes this rather interesting. The reason why I wanted to share this article with you is because not of all the information about her that's in the article, which is great, but when you get toward the bottom of the article, there's something that stands out to me. And I think it will shed some light on the culture or the impact of the culture of the WNBA as it is now, all these years later. It might verify some things for many of you, and it might be like, really? For others. Again, this is a star. She was a star in the league, and she had something that jumps out at me that she said. And I'm like, yeah, I think I understand some things now. So we're going to go over to this article. It was published in CBN, that is the Christian Broadcasting Network. And let's take a look. The headline is Tamika Catchings, champ on and off the court. Now, I have no intentions of reading the entire article, but I just want to highlight some things, and then I'm going to get to what jumps out at me. So let's start, though, reading the first paragraph. It says CBN.com standout WNBA star Tamika Catchings was born a timid little girl with a speech impediment due to a hearing loss and big round glasses. The Lord used Tamika's awkwardness as a young girl to steer her towards basketball, and her basketball skills today to steer people towards Christ. Now, there may be people watching who would say, God isn't steering anybody toward basketball. God doesn't care about basketball. And I've heard people say things like that, and it's just not true. God cares about us entirely. And he gives us gifts and he gives us talents, and we get to work on those things. And so it's no big surprise to me that God would say, I'm drawing you to this place because I'm going to use you here. It's always for a bigger purpose with him. So yes, he does call people to be pastors, and that's ministry, but he also calls people to be doctors. He calls people to be teachers. He calls people to be journalists. He calls people to play basketball, and he uses it for his glory. And so in this situation, we see here, this article starts by saying he used where she was and what she was going through, and he steered her in the direction that he wanted to use her in. Now, it tells us that she grew up in the church, but her faith became real to her on a daily basis her senior year at the University of Tennessee, when just months before the WNBA draft, the All-Star suffered a season-ending injury. Can you imagine that? You're ready for a draft, and right before you're about to go, boom, season-ending injury. Now it says, all of a sudden, all she had was God. And Tamika says God gave her the peace and strength to make it through. The Indiana Fever drafted her in 2001, and she just re-signed for 4 more years. So like I said, this was obviously pretty early in her career, I'm guessing here, but it sounds like we're talking a really old article. So she talks about God in this, and I'm going to bring this all together to my point as we go through. Before I do, though, some of you may not have known that she has hearing loss. If you've heard her speak, if you've heard her as a basketball analyst, you may have thought she just has a speech impediment. Well, the impediment is because of the hearing situation. So kudos to her to be able to say, I'm going to, in spite of that, push past the awkwardness and step into this area that I'm good at. So it says that she grew up in church, and it became real when she got injured. So it says, in the words of Tamika Catchings, 7th grade was the first time that I actually set a goal. I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I wanted to be in the NBA. I knew what I wanted to do, and Lord willing, I'm going to get there. This is what she felt. So it talks about her accolades a little bit. Then it says, growing up, I had a hearing problem. I had a speech problem. I had to wear glasses. I really didn't like to talk a lot because of my speech problem. People always found a way to make fun of me, the way I talked, the way I looked, my hearing aids being too big, and my glasses. There was always something that stood out. Somebody should have told her back then that there would come a time when the big glasses would be the style. But she was looking for a place to fit in. And she played various sports. It says right here, it lists the sports. I don't know if you knew this also, but she's the daughter of the former NBA star Harvey Catchings. And so she goes on to say, it wasn't until I got hurt my senior year that when I tore my ACL, and it was an eye-opening experience. I put my focus on basketball. Basketball was my life. Every single day I was thinking about it and dreaming about it. When I got hurt, it was like, take a step back and figure out where you're going, what direction you are going in. So sometimes, as much as we don't like injuries, we don't want injuries, we pray against injuries, sometimes, hey, I always say God can take a mess and make a miracle out of it. And so here she says, at first it was like, oh my gosh, I'm hurt. I'm not going to make the WNBA. I worked so hard to get here. Man, this is different, but I'm thinking about a Caitlin Clark who had not experienced injury in her life. And here she was, all-star, coming to Indiana. And it's like, here I am just about to step into that. And what happens? Another injury manifests, right? So she's like, I'm hurt. I'm not going to make it. I worked so hard. It was like, I did this and I did that. I did this. I did that. It was like you take a step back and I was like, whoa, I didn't do this. There was no way I can do this. God did this for me. And I would say that's absolutely true. And yet even the gifts that God has given us, the doors that he's opened and all that, yeah, we have to steward well. So you can't just sit back and say God did it. And she didn't. She worked hard and the results are out there. So it says injured, but with a new perspective on faith and basketball, she prayed for her name to be called on draft day. Indiana Fever picked her third, but she wasn't able to play. So, man, they're saying something. With that injury, they still chose her. And it says her injury kept her from playing her rookie year, but this time it didn't rock her faith. Peace definitely came from God. It came from realizing I need to remove my focus from basketball back to God. It seems like every single time I've been hurt, it has been the same thing. It's been that you get so caught up in what you are doing that you forget to give him the glory. And then it talks about her being the first player to score 1,000 points for Indiana, 4 gold medals, a trip to Beijing in 2008. All that success gives the little girl who wouldn't talk a national platform to do what? To share her faith. Now, this next paragraph is really what jumped out at me, considering what we see in the WNBA today. It says, it is hard to be a Christian in the WNBA. And I think it is because of so many different stereotypes. Just trying to walk with him and not be pulled by all the negative forces from the outside. I think that what I do with my platform is that I live my life as Christ-like as I can. I'm coming back to that, so I'm leaving it highlighted, but let's just take a look at this next paragraph. God is definitely my savior. He's the one that walks beside me through my ups and downs and the one that keeps me focused on where I'm going in life. He protects me, he provides for me, he guides me, and he leads me. Now, that's beautiful. The whole article is beautiful, starting from when she was a young girl, how she got involved in sports and then excelled, of course, in basketball, how she did in college, the greatness in college, getting drafted in spite of injury, and what she did in Indiana. And remember, at this time, she's still playing in the league. All those things sound like, okay, we see the journey. We see the journey. And then we get to this paragraph, which is really sad when you think about it. It is hard to be a Christian in the WNBA. And I think it is because of so many different stereotypes. Just trying to walk with him, with God, and not be pulled by all the negative forces from the outside. I think that what I do with my platform is that I live my life as Christ-like as I can. That first sentence of that paragraph, that's what grabbed me. It is hard to be a Christian in the WNBA. And remember, we're talking about pretty early in her career, when the culture wasn't even what it is now. I'm sure it was something, but it was nothing compared to where it is now, because we have seen the acceleration of the downward spiral in the culture. And you know what I'm going to say? Sports are a microcosm of society. As it is in the culture, so it is in various arenas, and that includes the sports arena, literally. And here this woman is back then as a player in the league. She says, it's hard to be a Christian in the WNBA. She went on to say, I think it's because of the stereotypes. So I ask you, what particular stereotypes do you think she's talking about? And why is this so hard? And I believe her. I believe that she was telling the truth from way back then. And I believe it's even more so right now. You all remember Candace Wiggins? Candace Wiggins is a former WNBA player. She talked about that she ended her career early because she was bullied for being straight. I don't think that there's anybody today who watches the WNBA who doesn't believe her. She said, I was bullied for being who I am. And she said, that's why she left early. And that's wild. And from a Christian perspective, that's really wild, because my prayer is that people of faith will be able to stand in their faith and impact the culture, not be the one who has to shrink because of the culture, but the ones who impact the culture. And I have no doubt that there are people who do that, but we hear what Tamika Catchings saying is like, it's hard. So I use my platform to be as Christ-like as possible. But there are challenges in this league for being a Christian and having those kinds of values. And honestly, you might just consider All-Star Weekend in some of the footage out there. I talked about it on the main channel. If you're not subscribed over there, please do. I talked about that on the main channel. Some of what we see, the drinking and the dry humping and the sexual innuendos and the whole stud buds thing. And I know some of you enjoy that or whatever. And I'm not here to tell you anything concerning whether you enjoy that or not. My point being, if you're a person and your mindset is, I want to honor God in everything that I do, and I want to be an all-star and be able to go to the all-star game, she's just saying there are stereotypes associated with that. Perhaps in this league, if we listen to Candace Wiggins, one of the stereotypes is about people who are straight. And then that's a battle. But Tamika Catchings, who's an upstanding person by all accounts, is saying that there's so much pulling at you and in the WNBA, in life, because this is beyond the WNBA, although it's obvious, it's in front of us in the WNBA, because many of you watching this, you're watching the WNBA, you're seeing how certain people are treated, you're seeing the culture of you're seeing the culture of the WNBA. And so you hear her saying, just trying to stand for what I believe in, to want to honor God, to give God glory. There's all these things pulling on you, even if it's not pulling on you because you're tempted to be a part of it. It's pulling on you because you want to be able to be your authentic self. And then you've got reportedly some pressure that comes with that. And it takes really strong individuals to take a stand and also to be vocal in sharing your faith, because God's given you a platform for a reason. You want to live it. You want to be able to share it. And you don't want to be bullied by people who don't respect it. And so I think that's why it's so important for people of faith to be praying for the WNBA in particular. And many of us are. I know that many of us are, because I have seen people enter the WNBA and then things really take a shift because of that pulling, because of that pressure. Even when it's talking about the physicality, how they beat their chest about being a certain type of way, those stereotypes that you're expected to line up to. And there are inside stories. It's not just Candace Wiggins. I believe there was someone else, I don't know who it is, who had that same kind of thing. And I'm not just talking about Candace Wiggins' situation. I'm just telling you what Tamika Catchings on the inside, she said it's hard because all these things are pulling on you. So if you are people of faith, you are people of prayer, we should be praying. And we should want to be people who don't shrink back, who don't get run away, but who stand and make a difference, right? So I think about teaching. I was thinking recently about teaching. I was sharing this last night in my life group at church, how when people come back on a Monday after a weekend, for example, and you're in the teacher lounge room or lunchroom or wherever you are where teachers are gathered, and they're talking about their weekend. Yeah, whether they got drunk or whatever it is they were doing. And obviously there are great things that people are doing too. I'm just saying, in particular, when people are doing things that you as a Christian wouldn't partake in, but they have no problem sharing their weekend and what they did, and we got drunk and we did. And then Christians somehow feel like, well, I should keep my mouth shut about my weekend. No. You know what? I went to church on Sunday and God really showed up and showed out. And my friend had been suffering from depression, and we prayed for her, and that weight lifted off of her. Or I saw somebody get healed. We don't need to be shrinking. We need to be influencing the culture and understanding that we were put there for a reason. Is it easy? You just heard what Tamika Catchings said. We don't have to be in the WNBA to feel like it can be difficult in this culture to take a stand as a Christian. But it's time that we do that. It's past time that we do that. And those who are doing it, God bless you. Continue to do it, because you don't ever get too old where those pressures and those pulls don't come at you. And even those stereotypes. Oh, you think you're holier than thou. Oh, you're a holy roller. Oh, who do you think you are? Oh, you're looking down your nose at us, and or you're whatever they say, looking down on us, thumbing your nose at us. Oh, you are phobia this and anti this, or whatever they come up with, a hater, all that. You have to know who you are, and you have to trust God, and you have to stand in that. And like Tamika Catchings said, you want to give God the glory in everything that you do. But for those of us who are watching the WNBA, you look at some of the stuff and you're just like, oh man, this is deep. Yeah, it was deep years ago. Tamika Catchings is telling us it was deep years ago. It's even deeper now. So maybe shed some light on some of the things that Caitlin goes through, or anyone who's going through. She's just the most obvious one because she has the bigger presence, the biggest presence. But again, those who pray, we should be lifting them up. And those who are people of faith, wherever we are, we also need to stand and do what Tamika Catchings said. And I'm going to read this again. She said, it is hard to be a Christian in the WNBA. And you can fill in the blank with whatever that is for you. She said, and I think it's because of so many different stereotypes. I just named off some. She says, just trying to walk with him and not be pulled by all the negative forces from the outside. I think what I do with my platform is that I live my life as Christ-like as I can. If you are not subscribed right here to Adrienne Raw Squared, where I square up from A to Z, make sure you subscribe and also turn your notifications on. And if you are not yet subscribed to the main channel, The Adrienne Raw Show, where sports and culture connect, subscribe there as well. Turn those notifications on as well. The link to the main channel will be in the description of this video. I'll catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.